Good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you are, and welcome to Requiem for London Chronicles, the City of Martyrs. And we begin our scene at the cold, damp, and somewhat ash covered Shady Oak Cemetery. We go past the kind of metal fence that protects the graveyard, the great sort of woodland that entombs and surrounds the cemetery, hides it. And as we go through, we see not rain, but a kind of a flaky ash mixed with rain that's falling down and surrounding the cemetery. And we see figures, we see individuals going about their usual work, nighttime work. We see many vans and cars coming in and coming out, dropping off their cargo. But we will go towards the owner, the proprietor of this establishment, after just receiving a phone call from a certain individual that they will be arriving soon.
Joseph is currently standing by the main gate, waiting for this individual to arrive at his establishment. He looks very tired. Stress has been getting to him recently as he's continuously been filling these orders that are being made all across town. All of the new shipments they're getting in, all of the new equipment that needs to be disposed of. And a gnawing feeling has been at the back of his head for the past few nights. The feeling of guilt, mainly, that one of the pieces of equipment had to be dealt with instead of, well, being able to salvage it, as it were. And this guilt has been gnawing at him, and he needs to get away from these Invictus thugs that have been mainly his only source of conversation as of recent. And most of their conversations are audible grunts and angry Cockney accents that he cannot stand anymore. And so he just sits here waiting by the gate, very patiently, almost statuesque, or like a taxidermied corpse that is being stood up, just looking out at the roads ahead. There aren't the Shady Oaks is kind of more in a rural part of town. Not many houses around here, just a main drag of road, and the rest of it is several hills. It's very secluded for being even part of the city still.
Okay, and we zoom in on another figure who is in their car, their loud, noisy, smoky, run-down vehicle that's barely able just to get him there. Oh, her there,
Well,
sorry.
there is a. Oh, it's not that. It's just a Mini Cooper, so it's not that.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
It's working, but there's not a lot of space. And Emily is somewhat big, so it looks a bit comical as she's. Oh, there is room enough, but the seat is all the way in the back, and she's sitting fairly close to the ground. But comfort doesn't seem really to be any concern of hers, not when she's driving. And she makes her way up to the cemetery, and she'll just like nod at the man standing that she's here to meet. And she will just drive into the cemetery, and we'll just park somewhere up, and she'll get out, and she'll just say, good evening.
Good evening, señorita.
So, I have a. Do you have like room for storage?
Your car, you mean?
No.
What do you need storing?
She will just like with a finger, just beckoning him a bit closer. She'll just open the trunk up, like look around before she opens and just make sure there's no one around.
It
She
is
points.
dead out here. There is not a soul, except like literally not a soul.
She points down to what looks like a corpse in the car, and she'll just say, "That is one of the new revenants, and I'm getting the feeling that."
Right as you say Revenant, Joseph reaches into his coat, pulls out a gun, and puts it to the thing's heart.
No, wait. I think this guy. We need to question this guy.
They're wild beasts. They need to be put down.
No. I made him into a ghoul. Everything was going fine. He was captured. Well, that's what he says. He says it's blurry, but what I managed to get out of him was that he was captured by the hunters currently in town, and suddenly he's hungry, and suddenly he needed to find me to do something to him. I think he wants to get, like, embraced or something, like, have some of my blood. But this means that...
Embrace means, madam. He looks at you very, like, just... a very cordial, not like cordial, but more like a look of a parent explaining to a child sort of thing.
Look, whatever's going to happen, like, I'll make that decision. That's not the problem. The problem is he might know something about whoever is, like, apparently, what he said. It's not just that there is more pure. Someone is making these things.
Peter, is this Revenant awake?
Nope, he is torpored.
Is he staked?
Nope. I don't know. No.
I look down at the bodies and I say, "Do you have rope?"
I can get some.
No, I have some. It's just that I'm not allowing that thing near my staff unless it's secured.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead. Totally. It's just...
He walks over to a nearby shed for a groundskeeper and comes back with a length of rope and ties down the Revenant's arms and ties his arms and legs together.
And it is just like a torpor person or a corpse. There's no resistance whatsoever.
Yeah, I know. But he looks at you and says, if we're going to be waking this thing up, I want to be sure it won't go for our necks or any of my staff.
Sure. That's not going to be a thing right now. I don't think so, anyway. Look, I'm thinking that they used this person was starved and came for me, like, not to eat me, just wanted something from me. I think he wanted to be made into a kindred or something. Like, he was hungry, he was babbling around, and then he realized that he was being followed. And next thing I know, I'm getting met by 3 of these hunter assholes.
Mrs. Stevenson, has he been fed tonight?
No.
We're going to have a problem then when we wake him up. You don't know much. Do you know how revenants function bodily?
They need, like, kindred blood?
They need blood every rising day. They wake starved.
Ah, shit. Fuck. Okay. Well, if he's out like that for a moment, it's not going to be a problem, right? It's only when we need to wake him up.
To wake him up, and if we do that on my property, well, those ropes aren't going to be enough to keep the frenzy at bay.
unless we feed him enough.
Yes, but where are you going to get that? You're not getting it from my staff, I assure you of that.
Well, like I said, we don't need to wake him right now. I just need to have somewhere where he can, and just looks at him, be like that. Just not moving, not do anything right now, because I have a more pressing problem right now. And we all might have a pressing problem if the hunters are using these things to track us and then ambush us.
It will need to be staked then. I need assurance.
Fair enough. Okay. Like, she just nods.
Do you have a stake, madam?
No.
I'll see if I can find an old chair leg and sharpen that then.
Let me help you, she just says. And she...
Bring your car. Let us drive up to my home then.
Okay, she just nods and gets in the car.
He gives you, Joseph gives you directions of where to drive up, and it's a small, like, it looks like a quaint farmhouse on the property. 2-story, about maybe four bedroom. Kind of dilapidated. Well, not dilapidated, but falling apart. Needs possible renovations. Needs work done on it, and no one is around here currently. So he just informs you to pull up as close to the front porch as possible, and proceeds to then get out of the car and go around to the back of the. It goes around to the back of the car and waits for you to open the trunk. At this point, he also lights up a small cigarillo. Would you like one?
Well, no, I don't smoke.
He just continues waiting for you to open the trunk.
Oh, she does.
He proceeds to quite effortlessly, he yanks up the body and slings the creature over his shoulder and walks it into the house, following behind and going inside. You see that the house is it's very odd. Like, a lot of the decoration in here does not appear to be any of Joseph's own personal belongings. More whoever used to own this small farmhouse on the property. He just hasn't touched anything in here. There are pictures of a man, of an older gentleman and his wife, that are strewn around. Old flowers that are still in pristine growth. Like, Joseph's been keeping up with the garden, with like keeping these potted plants watered every single night. Inside is to the is like a sharp parallel to the outside of this building. It's very nice. It's very clean. It's just been kept in pristine condition. None of the interior has gone into disrepair whatsoever. And he brings, though you do notice the very odd thing on the front door. It looks almost as if there are broken pieces of wood on the side of it, like the door got yanked out at one point, but and looks like it was like some of it was never cleaned up. Other than that, though, very impeccable. And he opens the door to the basement and begins bringing the body down stairs. And when you get down there, you find yourself what appears to be in a mortician's laboratory. Like, there are tables set up in here. There are there's embalming equipment everywhere. Lots of plastic tubes. Very sterile. Very very strange to see this in here. This looks like a newer edition. You also notice a picture on the on one of the sitting tables in the corner. Do you look at it at all as he's putting the body up on one of the slabs?
Probably not. No, like, yeah, Emily will just stand as still as she can, just waiting for you to do your thing. She doesn't seem to she just waits fairly, like, stands there, doesn't say anything, doesn't comment on anything yet. She just seems to wait for you to do your thing.
He begins clamping down the Revenant's arms to the table, putting ropes around his torso and everything, making sure that everything is secure, that he isn't going anywhere, restraining his hands by metal cuffs, and finally goes over to a cabinet and opens it up and pulls out a wooden mallet along with a sharpened stake and proceeds to walk over to the table, set the stake on his chest, and smash it through him. It makes a very audible and disgusting noise as this happens. Though no blood is within this creature, as Joseph expected, you can just hear organs pressing and the noise of the heart squelching. He will be safe down here, señorita.
Right. Okay. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will not harm him in any way, but know this. If he somehow gets out of these restraints, which I am going to make sure he doesn't, but in the hypothetical situation where he does, and if he harms one of my staff members, I will rip his legs off. Do you understand me? This is a liability. Having this creature here and not burning it immediately, liability.
Right.
I bear no ill will towards it, or you, but this is a responsibility I am taking, and I will need compensation for this as well.
Like, what? Of course.
I will determine what I need at a later date. My fee is different for different circumstances, and under these conditions, I will not need you to kill anyone, so do not worry. I'm not a man of... If I have a problem like that, I usually undertake it myself.
That's good to know. She says, very unconvinced, just looks at him.
Was there anything else you would be needing tonight, Miss Stevenson?
Yeah. We should talk about, last time and the problems. Lots of new of these things. Like, this is not the only one. Like, if someone is making these things, someone needs to do something about it, right? Or at least I would hope.
Well, of course they do. But it depends on what leads do you have aside from this creature?
Well, the morgue, we found, like, tons of them.
Yes, I know. I have no intention of going back there anytime soon, Senora.
Of course not. Like, of course you wouldn't do that. That would be stupid. No, but like, isn't this a problem? Shouldn't we be doing something about it?
I am doing something about it. I am making sure revenants stay dead. My job is to burn them, and their ashes will now coat the cemetery you've been driving through. I've been doing this for about almost a week, or 2 to 3 weeks now.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm the cemetery man, Coffin Joe. You did not know about this?
But no, not that. Like burning? Like what the?
Yes, we burn them. It is
But have you
before they die.
found some of them or what?
Pardon?
Have you found some of them?
I have them shipped to me.
Emily's eyes grow wider. She just looks at you. Okay.
Madam, I work for the Invictus. They are trying to deal with this problem in our city, and I am the one they have hired to do it. It is a messy job. I do not like the circumstances, but it keeps me with a reliable source of income. And I feel I am doing this city a very, very good service while I'm at it. These revenants are a curse upon us, and they must be brought down, so any the Invictus capture, they are brought to me, and then they are disposed of accordingly. No secret what I do here.
Right. Right. Okay. Sure.
Senora Stevenson, how long have you been a part of this requiem?
Uh, not. I mean, none of your business. She just looks very, very unconvinced, that she doesn't look threatening at all, even though that was probably meant to be a threatening statement.
You're young, I can tell. You have a lot to learn about this life. I can tell you this.
Guess.
I have been here for over 10 years. I have been like this for over 10 years. Now, comparably to some of the elders, that is nothing. But I learned a lot during my first stay in this city over 10 years ago, before this whole catastrophe happened, before this enlightened fellowship or whatever they call themselves. I was here before that. And this city, well, it was still just as dangerous. So even when this enlightened brotherhood is gone and when they are brought low, you're going to have to still deal with the covenants. You're still going to have to deal with clan rivalry. You're still going to have to deal with monsters coming out of the woodwork trying to destroy you. I am not here to frighten you. I am simply here to give you advice. To be careful. There are things worse than these, as he points down to the Revenant. And there are creatures more strange and eccentric than even I.
But you're it's just a little like, shouldn't we give them a chance? Like, just burn them? Isn't that like very cold-hearted and sick?
Cold-hearted and sick. This existence, what we are, Emily, it is a mercy to kill them. I would never, in my entire existence, turn another into a kindred. It is a selfish and debased act. It is a curse that must be overcome. And I do not understand why we continue to create more kindred in this world. Greed is what is the issue with this. And what I do, you can call it cold-hearted and evil. I justify myself at the very least.
Like, shouldn't we give them like a chance not to die, not like
They
continue their
already have
existence?
died, Emily. All I'm doing is making sure that they go more peacefully than they would normally. Let me tell you something. That night in the morgue, there was a girl in that morgue that I tried to save her life. Young girl, Oriental, I believe. And she was in there, and I was trying to help her. I was trying to get her out of there as quickly as possible. She was in shock and panic. She passed out. I tried to save her, and those revenants ripped her asunder. And she became a revenant as a result somehow. Something I have never heard of happening. And she was brought here, of all places. And the stake had not been driven correctly through her heart. So she awoke, screaming and frantic and in fear. And she was about to lash out, about to kill one of my staff members. I bared this girl no ill will, but I had to protect the living. So I sent her into the furnace. I could have done something else, and I've thought about this heavily, and I feel guilty, but at the same time, I would have felt tremendously more guilty and damned if I had done the second option. I could have turned her into a vampire. But what sort of life is that to lead? Never see another.
Better than dying?
Better than dying.
Like
I
it
can-
should be.
you
It should
and
be
I-
said out of character. Out of character. It should be said every time she says something. She seems as though she's trying also to convince herself while she's saying it. She's not very convincing in any way.
Joseph can tell immediately, but he is just pushing forward with what he's saying and trying to get this through to her as concisely as possible. Child, you and I can never see another sunrise. We can never enjoy the embrace of a lover again. We can never eat a fine meal and be satisfied with it. We have to take everything from other people. We are parasites. We prey upon the weak and the innocent. We are monsters. Make no mistake. To embrace that girl would have been even more of a sin. Sin. I apologize for the my religious vocabulary, but it would have been more of a sin than just ending her at that point. I didn't want her to be like me. I am Nosferatu. I am more damned than many of our kind. Ostracized, hated, feared even. What sort of life is that to lead, to be this outsider, to be a monster? I am the boogeyman in the closet of some child ready to pounce out at them and scare the living shit out of them. I am a monster, and I have accepted that fact, and I am trying to be as human as possible. But to take somebody's humanity away from them, to strip them of all of it, that is the worst crime there is in this world, as I see it. Worse than
No, I can think of some worse things.
he just stares at her for the longest time. Give me an example, child.
Being able to save someone from death and not doing it.
It's not saving them. It's not saving them, child.
Could
We
you
were not.
could you stop
Humans-
calling me child and start calling me my name? I would really like that.
I will call you by your name when you earn that respect from me.
Listen, buddy. I've had a stressful couple of nights, okay? Look, you do whatever you do. Just don't. We might need the information he's got, whatever he experienced. Okay, so don't kill him. Okay, and yeah. Um, do you want to talk about what happened? Like, should we have a plan or something? Like, it is just to ship them to you and burn them. Like, even as sick as that is, that's your plan. That's how we're going to deal with this.
This is my job. I have been contracted by the Invictus. You don't go back on a deal with the Invictus. I learned that very quickly.
Right, but what if if there is someone behind all of this, keeps doing this? What do we do then? Like, just said, like, well, we'll continue to fucking burn them in a furnace. Like, that can't be our solution.
This is not the solution. My point is very simple. I am going to continue doing my job until I can help to bring... I wish to help bring down whoever is creating these revenants. They are a curse upon not only us, but upon humanity. And so it needs to be stopped. But until I have time and I have the ability to, I am going to continue doing my job and not pissing off the silent conspiracy, because that is the easiest way for my head to end up on a pike somewhere.
Right. So, okay. And yeah. Well, that's perfect. That's a good plan. Like, I can see that. Right. So, yeah. But look. I just got fucking attacked. Okay. I got attacked last night.
By who?
This guy, like, hunters. Yeah. So I'm a little on edge. I'm sorry.
You know who they worked for? Was it the Enlightened?
Of course it is. That's who they are.
Well, when you said, I have run into hunters of different colors before.
Oh no. It's the Enlightened. Yeah.
Good. Well, at least we don't have any others trying to move in on London now.
Good. No. These guys mean business. Like, you can see, like, her right hand is gloved, and she just takes off the glove, and you can see, like, she has what appears to be a fairly significant and fairly hefty acid burn on her hand. You can see the bone of her hand. She just looks. One of the assholes managed to actually get his blood on me, which really pissed me off. But I don't know. I'll figure it out. But it's just like, luckily I managed to get them up on a roof, and then, well, I started throwing them off the roof. That sort of took care of the problem. But still, it's annoying as hell.
I would recommend keeping a gun handy. They're only human, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, with all of the patrols and shit, like, carrying a gun is kind of a problem. You're gonna attract a lot more attention if someone spots it.
Well, depending on what I forget that others do not have the abilities my clan has sometimes.
Yeah.
There are ways my clan has found to quiet an area. Either way, my point still stands. Be careful. Don't get caught. By God, don't if you see any large group of revenants, please inform either I or the Invictus immediately.
Just the number you gave me?
Yep. I can send it
So
along to
you'll
I can send
roll
it
out.
to my boss, Arthur.
Right. So, wow, we're just burning all of them, just like that.
It has to be done. Many of these creatures are mad beasts.
Well, it's not my job, so I'll just stay out of it.
I would recommend so. I understand your concerns, but at the same time, the Invictus, as they run as almost like a corporation, would not understand your whole philosophical point of view.
Not philosophical. It's just like
It is a
once.
philosophy. We all have our own personal ones.
Yeah, and mine is like you talk of beasts. Like if you just cold like that, just start execute while burning people without really knowing for sure. I'm quite sure I don't feel you with them being monsters and not us being monsters, but I'll shut up now.
Joseph looks at her and then just sort of looks down at his shoulder for a moment, stares at his shoulder for the longest time. You notice this. It's very odd. He looks back at you. Emily, have you ever seen what happens to one of us when we fall too far from our humanity?
No.
He proceeds to remove his jacket and unbuttons his shirt, and he basically just shoves his shirt down over his right shoulder.
She will just get visibly uncomfortable with you.
You see immediately not only his incredibly pale, almost corpse-like skin, but you also see a very strange wound on his shoulder.
I think she's seen that before.
Have you?
I think you have.
No.
I'm not sure, but all right. But I think like there's someone tried to deoperate him, right? And there's a fairly
Yes.
significant
There's
bite
a
mark,
very
right?
strange. It's not just a bite mark, but almost a pattern going down his arm that appears to be almost like it looks like a tattoo at first, but the scarring has formed almost that of like the shape of a serpent. This is what happened when one of our kind, about 10, 11 years ago. His name was McGee. McGee tried to diablerize me after he fell to the Red Surrender. But unlike many of his Gangrel clanmates, he did not come back from the Red Surrender. He fell completely and he became a raving lunatic. This is what happens to us when we become inhuman, and that is what those revenants are. Not all of them, but a good portion of them are just mad beasts. The beast rises, they have no control of it like we do. They can't keep their humanity close. They cannot kindle humanity like we can.
Shouldn't we give them a chance to? And she just points in the direction or to the corpse she actually brought in. She just says, that guy was able to restrain himself quite a lot, actually.
Whatever you want to do with this one, that is your choice. The rest of them are under my care, and I will rather shepherd them along to whatever afterlife awaits their sorry souls. If there is a God, which I highly doubt at this point, I've always highly doubted it. I don't believe in God. But if there is one in that slightest chance, let's hope he decides to give pity to these creatures in a world that refused to give them any.
Right. That's very cheerful.
Cheerful.
I mean, I don't know, but I haven't spoken with a lot of our kind, but
You should.
like,
When you have much.
well, I mean, that kind of talk there, like, it's not gonna, make your mood any better. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not happy either, but still, I mean,
Learning about our kind is never a fun thing, Emily. We are monsters. Don't forget that.
still, like,
I have found ways to overcome what I am, but it comes at an expense nonetheless.
I can tell. She just, again, looks at you and just seems off-put somehow.
This is what all Nosferatu begin to degrade into. We show our beasts on the outside as it is on the in. That's just our curse. What I'm talking about is a different expense. I was part of a organization here in London 10 years ago. We knew many ways of subverting our curse, but it was never permanent. But they're gone now.
Subverting your curse?
Yes. Subverting our fear of fire, subverting the fleeting blush of life that we can imitate. We found ways to let it go for an entire day on the smallest expenditure of our own blood. We found ways to walk towards a bonfire, and our beast was never even roused by it. We found
Walk in the daylight.
Only a fool would do that, but we tried to find a way. We were trying to find a fair... There were... Well...
Would you say that if someone was, well, wanted to study this enough that one could potentially find a way to do that, even that?
Yes. You could. It is a mixture of occultism and pseudoscience that we studied. I'm probably one of the few still known practitioners of it in the city, too. That's what all of this is for. He looks around. He looks to a bookshelf, you notice, for a moment, and his eyes linger on something for a very long time. Do you look over to see what it is?
At this moment, yeah, she's a little too curious.
There is a small red book that is sitting on a shelf. You cannot make out the words of it exactly, but it appears to be made like the cover of it is some sort of like red, like a felt on it of some kind.
Uh-huh.
And he just is staring at it, and then he kind of snaps back to reality, and then looks at Emily again.
So no, it's fine. Thank you for letting me do this. Yeah. So you're going to continue doing your thing, and we're all done with the Revenant thing for the moment.
Yes, we are. He walks over to his bookshelf, actually, at this point, and he actually does grab the book. And he brings it back over. He's just holding it. You cannot see the cover yet. This book was given to me by my mentor when I was part of the organization I used to work for. This book is the philosophy I have lived by for the last 12 years. It saddens me that there are few here that even remember this. Have you ever heard of the Ordo Dracul, Emily?
No.
That was my covenant. I was very, very young back then. I had just moved here from Spain. My sire had abandoned me, fleeing into the Swiss Alps. We were escaping persecution from the Loncaia at Sanctum. I met an old friend of his here, a Mekhet by the name of Graves. I've not seen in a very long time. I have no knowledge of what happened to the man. And you can see blood starting to well up in Joseph's eyes at this point, almost like tears are beginning to form. But of course, blood slowly begins dripping down as he opens up the book. This right here, this prologue in this book, this is what I read this 12 times over because it reminded me of what we stood for. Were I a pagan bard, I would invoke the muse of fire to fill me with passion for the task ahead. I would beg a god to put his words in me, to blow his wisdom through me like a trumpet, to make me resound with the truth for the people. Yet I am no pagan bard. My enemy is fire, and I am more likely to rebuke my passions than bid them to spill forth. What am I? I have been a tyrant, a warrior, and one of the fallen on the battle's field. I have been a Christian and a wanderer and an enemy of God. I have begged and murdered, tortured and rescued, pledged loyalty and given treachery. I have died and returned, and I drink hot blood. My name is Vladisau, one-time prince of Wallachia, one-time commander of armies, called Tepesh, called Kazeglu Bey, called Dracula. I am now much more than I once was, and perhaps much less as well. I write this in Rome, far from my ancestral seat, far from my adopted homeland. Here I rest, sated by my beloved as she hunts on my behalf, luring men to their doom upon my table. Men only, for she is a jealous creature. She believes I have sent the others away for the love of her, and that is the truth. It is not, however, the entire truth. I put them aside from fear. I fear their jealousy of her. I fear the fate of all I have dragged down into my doom. All things alter, as she knows as well as any. She fights against this change foolishly, and her struggles may but speed it. I have learned, to my sorrow, that nothing I can do endures, and she will be lost to me. And that is my damnation to choose, and it is my damnation to choose if I lose her swiftly or inches by the decade. But inevitably, she will slip from my grasp. This book right here, Emily, contains much knowledge on the subject of humanism and the ways of subverting the curse. They say it was written by Vlad the Impaler himself. Though I have my doubts on that matter. Nonetheless, here. And he hands you the book. Borrow it.
looks at him with a somewhat inquisitive look, and she just nods somewhat slowly and just says, "Right, thanks. But you don't need it anymore?"
Oh, I will want it back. Borrow it for a night. Return it to me when you come next time. Study it.
Oh, sure. Thanks a lot.
Knowledge is key, child. You're going
Suppose it
to
is.
this
Suppose
world.
it is.
Anyways, I have shirked my duties enough for tonight. I need to return to my staff and help them with the next load.
Right. I'll let you get back to work. Sure. She kind of nods, kind of looks at the book a little questioningly, and she just hurries off and just says, "Right, thanks, and I'll be in touch." And yeah, she begins to make her way.
Joseph just looks over this poor revenant that is sitting on his table, and he's very soured by that the thing is sharing his haven with him, but nonetheless, he sits down and begins reading through several of his notes. He thinks soon a trip is warranted into the city proper. And I think with that, we shall end the scene. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.